there's just something profoundly wrong here.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
L'amour, j'en fais quelque chose de plus beau. Quelque chose comme un don, un abandon.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for our weekly film show. Today, we're talking about 3 movies where nothing is what it seems, and we're joined by our critic, Lisa Nesselson, by Skype. Hello, Lisa. Now, we're starting with the new film from screenwriter, director, and novelist Charlie Kaufman, who's known for writing films like Being John Malkovich and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I'm Thinking of Ending Things is on Netflix. Now, is this a crowd pleaser or a crowd baffler, Lisa?
Well, this is a visual and sensory experience designed to be haunting and destabilizing. Great performances, lots of meta-narrative hijinks, incredibly melancholy. Whether you enjoy it or not will have a lot to do with how much faintly creepy or overtly creepy material about life and memory and relationships you're feeling open to. It's longish and you have to pay attention. Now, Kaufman wrote the screenplay to Being John Malkovich, which director Spike Jonze and a fab cast turned into an absolute gem of off-kilter alienation. Until this, Kaufman's most recent film as writer and director was 2015's Anomalisa, a completely unnerving stop-action animated feature that I loved. Here, Jesse Plemons plays Jake, who is taking a long drive with his unnamed girlfriend, played by Jessie Buckley, to visit his parents on the farm where he grew up. It's snowing and cold. The title refers to the girlfriend's nagging sentiment that although Jake is a nice enough guy, their relationship just isn't going anywhere. She's not even sure how long they've been dating, but finally settles on 6 weeks.
See if our viewers are up for a little bit of creepy. Here's a glimpse of I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Jake has told us so much about you. He's told me so much about both of you, too. And you came anyway? Jake tells me you're studying quantum psychics.
Physics.
Really? But there's just something profoundly wrong
Are
here.
you okay?
Yeah. I think of endings.
I am so glad Jake has found someone.
Jake's childhood bedroom contains books and videos and other clues that much of his psychological makeup may actually be a literal absorption of pop culture. Now, the story is far, far richer if you're familiar with, say, American film critic Pauline Kael, John Cassavetes' film A Woman Under the Influence, Guy Debord's The Society of the Spectacle, and especially Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical Oklahoma. That's a mix of rot-gut American and highfalutin French. Now, if you had the chance to design your own perfect maid, would you draw on books and movies and philosophy and poetry you'd been exposed to? Or would you want to be surprised? And if you have a fantasy, does that mean you can control every aspect of it? Or could a fantasy take on a life of its own?
With Christopher Nolan's Tenet and now this, we seem to be in a creative moment where there's lots of information for the viewer, perhaps a little bit too much to take in. What do you think that's about, Lisa?
Well, obviously, it's a ploy to make us watch movies twice. With Nolan and Kaufman, we're definitely not in the presence of sloppy storytelling. Frustrating, perhaps. Sloppy, no. My suggestion is that you watch this and then look up the reviews and commentary. There are aspects that sang to me immediately. The retro animated commercial for a retro drive-in ice cream stand, the toying with sinister tropes like a door to a forbidden basement, and the unexpected musical interludes. And there is stuff that irked me. The problem with Netflix, at least for me, is that the image is never going to be large enough to do full justice to the story.
You stick to your guns, Lisa. Moving on, the 10th film by the French writer-director Emmanuel Mouret focuses on love and randomness. Tell us about Love Affairs, which is out in France this week.
Well, some of Mouret's films work far better than others, and this is almost certainly the best yet. What they all have in common is good actors and a proud, unapologetic affection for words. The French title, which translates as The Things We Say, The Things We Do, is far more evocative than the official English language translation, Love Affairs. Although love affairs are the topic at hand. And we follow the romances of quite a few characters, 8, I think. Sometimes as viewers, we're equipped to see the sincerity at work or the discrepancy between words and actions. And sometimes we are absolutely sideswiped by a development. I love being completely surprised by something in a movie. Mouret is a fan of marivaudage, the sprightly exchange of well-turned phrases inspired by the work of French dramatist Marivaux.
Okay, well, we can have a look at love affairs and also hear from the actress Camilla Jordana.
Je veux pas être la maîtresse d'un homme marié.
J'aurais pas dû te dire que j'étais marié.
Non, sinon j'aurais pas couché avec toi.
Pourquoi tu voulais coucher avec moi alors?
Parce que t'étais mariée. Pensant que justement t'allais pas vouloir recommencer. Je veux pas que tu t'imagines qu'une relation durable et officielle est possible entre nous.
Ah bon? Pourquoi?
Je suis déjà mariée.
T'es mariée?
C'est un film qui parle
It's a film that speaks about, in many ways and on many levels, the notion of love, relationships, cheating, desire. It was joyous to be reunited with Niels for his film and to work with Vincent for the first time.
Vincent, avec lequel j'avais encore jamais joué.
Well, the Oscars recently unveiled new guidelines designed to promote diversity and inclusion, both in front of and behind the camera. Emmanuel Mouret is a filmmaker who already shines a light on women, Lisa.
Yes, well, apparently seen from Hollywood, women are a minority, but you wouldn't know that from Mouret's films, where women always give and get as good as the male characters do. Nothing smacks of quotas or obligations. Everything is elegant, even if it can also be emotionally devastating. Emily Dequesne outdoes herself here in a fascinatingly deft role, and Camilla Jordana, who we just heard, a singer of Algerian heritage who is also an excellent actress, is a name you should know. She got her start in a televised singing competition performing Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World. Is a first-generation North African woman born in France singing a song by a celebrated Black American musician. Cultural appropriation? No, it's how art naturally works. And spoiler alert, 2 straight people of opposing sexes should never be left alone together to pour their hearts out. It turns out that even people with good jobs and fetching residences have relationship problems too. They just experience and articulate the vicissitudes of heartache in much nicer surroundings. I have to say, this is one of the better, I'll tell you your story I have to say this is one of the better, I'll tell you my story if you tell me yours, films to come along in quite a while.
Okay, it certainly sounds intriguing. Now, the French equivalent to the Oscars Academy, the César, are promoting acclaimed short films from around the world by screening them here in Paris. Tell us about La Nuit en Or or Golden Nights.
Every year, the Césars invite the winners from over 24 countries, the Magritte in Belgium, the BAFTA in the UK, and similar awards the world over to come to Paris and to a few other European cities to show their films and meet local audiences. It usually culminates in June with a gala held at UNESCO. All that had to be canceled, but a short program of shorts, 8 titles, will be shown for free in cinemas all over France, from Angers to Vannes, from Lyon to Strasbourg, starting this week and ranging into October. Get in line now for the full program of winners that will be held at the UGC Odeon Cinema in Paris on September 29th and 30th. Now, the 2020 batch of winners is overwhelmingly female and from the world over. You can't legislate creativity. This is a natural evolution in the right direction. So here's some female filmmaking talent. In this award-winning short, Natalia looks for a stolen heart. And in a world where hearts can be deposited at the bank for safekeeping, she has to decide whether to give her heart away or keep it for herself.
Partilha esta paixão, revela as palavras que me impelem para te sentir, sentir o prazer.
And that was from Au Cœur des Ombres, showing at La Nuit en Or, or Golden Nights, here in France. And we're going to wrap up with the restoration of a film that I love, Total Recall, made by Paul Verhoeven. We often say legend, but this director really is one, isn't he, Lisa?
Oh, yes, Paul Verhoeven is an absolute treasure among directors. Since so many Hollywood style films are based on the idea that a flawed character overcomes obstacles and becomes a better person in the end, I still cherish Verhoeven's comment at the Cannes press conference for his last film, Elle, that it's ridiculous to think that people grow and change. Verhoeven believes that after childhood, who we are is pretty much set in stone. From his wonderful earlier Dutch films, especially Soldier of Orange and Spetters, through Basic Instinct and Showgirls and Starship Troopers, he has melded action and interesting motivations, always giving us attractive protagonists to look at. He returned to Europe for the astonishing Black Book, voted by the Dutch public as the best Dutch film ever made, and of course, the near-perfect provocation Elle, starring Isabelle Huppert as a woman who gets raped in her own home, takes it in stride, and gets her revenge without ever feeling a speck of self-pity or distress. His Benedetta, an historical drama about a lesbian nun, will premiere in Cannes next year. Back in 1990, he directed Total Recall. In this loose and rollicking adaptation of Philip K. Dick's short story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, Arnold Schwarzenegger is perfectly cast as a man unsure whether his memories are his own. Now, I think I'd remember if I'd ever been to Mars, but some things just occasionally slip your mind.
Okay, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week, and we're going to leave you with Total Recall. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
You wouldn't hurt me. We're married.
Consider that a divorce.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here.
Look who's talking. My name is not Quaid.
An hour we could have Total Recall.
I want Quaid delivered for reimplantation.
Catch!
Get ready for a surprise.